At Starbound, we tell stories the human way, not with artificial voices or AI slop. I mean, in the end, what's HFY without humanity? Subscribe to keep it this way. My name is the Voice Ogre, and let's begin. Vahatsa was the youngest blade master of the Triri tribe, and on the day the human fell from the sky in an escape pod, it was she whom the matriarch sent to deal with the invader. The desert sun gleamed off her armor as she moved across the endless dunes. Her long, silver-white hair was bound in the warrior's knot, secured on her back with bone clasps. The armor left her arms mostly bare, showing the scarification that marked her achievements, too many for her age. The crash site appeared first as a column of black smoke against the amber sky. Vahatsa's pace never faltered, her footsteps as light as the wind. As she crested the final dune, she saw it, a metal pod still smoking, and emerging from it, a human. Her first impression took a second. He moved on two legs, had two arms, and a head where a head should be. Alien, yet familiar. But these observations scattered like sand in the wind the moment her warrior's instinct took hold. Her hand found the grip of her blade, the motion so smooth it seemed the weapon simply materialized in her grasp. Vahatsa's approach was poetry written in violence. Her steps merged with the desert wind itself, each embracing silence. The wounded human hadn't noticed her yet, too focused on its injury. She raised her blade, the motion fluid as water, deadly as lightning. The strike would be clean. Sever the already damaged leg, leave the invader helpless for interrogation or execution as the matriarch willed. The blade descended in a perfect arc, her signature move. She felt the impact travel up her arm, the satisfying resistance of flesh parting before honed steel. The being cried out, dropping to one knee, and Vahatsa spun with the momentum of her strike, already preparing for the killing blow. She glanced back, expecting to see the severed limb, blood painting the sand crimson. Instead, the being was clutching its leg, still very much attached, and her universal translator crackled to life, parsing the alien sounds. "Do it again! Do it again! Do it again now!" Vahatsa froze mid-motion, her blade poised for the next strike. In 20 years of training, in 7 years of active service as a warrior, in countless duels and battles, she had heard many things from those who tasted her blade. Screams of pain, pleas for mercy, but never, not once, had anyone asked her to strike them again. He looked up at her, his eyes wide with hope. It kept repeating those words. "Do it again!" gesturing frantically at its leg. Vahatsa's mind raced. Was this some form of battle madness? She made her decision. If the creature wished for death so eagerly, she would grant it. But cleanly, honorably. A next strike would end its suffering. Vahatsa shifted her stance, raising her blade high, the desert sun creating a corona of light around the weapon's edge. He saw the movement and did something that changed everything. He rolled up the fabric covering his leg. Vahatsa's blade remained frozen in the air as her eyes took in the horror attached to the being's flesh. It was like nothing from her world, a writhing mass of translucent tissue, moving with its own grotesque life. Tentacles, hundreds of them, thin as threads burrowed into the pale skin. Understanding struck her. The "do it again" wasn't a death wish. It was a plea for help. The being wanted her to cut the parasite, not its leg. But this revelation came a heartbeat too late. The thing moved in a blur. One moment it was attached to the being's leg. The next, it had launched itself into the air. Vahatsa's reflexes simply weren't enough. The parasite slammed into her, and immediately its tentacles went to work. They wrapped around her arms, binding them together at the wrists, at the elbows, coiling toward her shoulders. she felt them tighten, not crushing, but restraining, as if the thing possessed intelligence enough to seek revenge for the wound she inflicted. Vahatsa did not panic. Warriors of the Triri did not panic, but she acted decisively. She dropped to her knees and scraped her bound arms against the sand, hoping the abrasive particles would tear the creature loose. It didn't work. Growing desperate, she attempted something no warrior should ever try. She brought her bound arms to her mouth and bit down on the nearest tentacle. The taste was indescribable. Her stomach rebelled immediately, yet her teeth still failed her. This was how she would die, Vahatsa realized. Not in glorious battle, not defending her tribe from raiders or monsters, but wrapped in the embrace of an alien parasite. A shadow fell across her. The pale human stood above her, favoring its wounded leg, but mobile, holding something small in its hand. For a moment, Vahatsa felt relief. Death by blade was honorable, even from an enemy. She lifted her chin, offering her neck. Instead of striking her neck, the being grabbed her by the chest plate of her armor and yanked her forward. She saw the small blade, barely longer than her thumb. And then the being was stabbing, not her, but the parasite, again and again. A tiny weapon plunged into the creature's mass, and with each strike, the thing's grip loosened. They were on a slope, Vahatsa realized too late. The being's pulling and her own struggle sent them both tumbling. The world became a chaos of sand and sky, gray skin and pale. The screech of the dying parasite and their own grunts of pain. They rolled down the dune in a tangle of limbs, the humans still stabbing wildly at the creature even as they fell. Darkness came not from the parasite, but from the rock that introduced itself to the back of Vahatsa's head somewhere along their fall. She woke to the strange sensation of gentle hands on her arms. The being, the human, was sitting beside her, tearing strips from its own clothing. The parasite lay several feet away, a deflated mass of dead tissue. Vahatsa lay still, watching through half-closed eyes as this alien she'd been sent to kill tended her wounds with the careful attention of a healer. The shame that washed through her was almost physical in its intensity. She was a warrior of the Triri, sent to deal with an invader. And not only had she failed to recognize the true enemy, but she'd needed rescue from the very being she'd been ordered to eliminate. The human noticed her watching and smiled. "Thank you for saving me. Sorry for all the trouble, and for falling on your planet like this. My ship, He gestured skyward. "Those things got aboard, killed everyone else. I barely made it to my escape pod." Vahatsa turned her face away, unable to meet those grateful eyes when she'd come here as an executioner. The human mistook her gesture for pain and continued apologetically. "And I'm also sorry about the blood. Parasite blood, I mean." He held up a small reflective surface, a mirror her mind supplied. "It's like a tattoo. Won't come off without surgery. And there is a chance that it's mutagenic, although the computer said that the probability was low. Shame forgotten, wounds forgotten, fear forgotten." Vahatsa snatched the mirror and stared at her reflection. The marks were everywhere. Splashes of color that shifted between purple and gold depending on the angle, streaking across her gray neck and arms. She looked at the human, really looked at him for the first time. His pale skin bore the same marks, perhaps more extensively. The human watched her nervously, clearly misreading her intense scrutiny. "I know a beautiful woman like you must hate having marks on her skin, right?" he said quickly. "But I promise, once I can get us off planet, I will take you to a medical facility. We can find someone who will remove them. Make you perfect again." Vahatsa's mind went completely blank, utterly blank. Then it raced faster than she'd ever experienced, through traditions and laws, through ceremonies witnessed and stories told, through the absolute cosmic impossibility of what had just happened. Her voice, when she found it, was very small.
In my tribe,
She said slowly.
matching tattoos are the symbol of marriage. Permanent marks that mirror each other, that cannot be removed.
She watched the human's face cycle through confusion to understanding to alarm.
Which means that I now have to kill you.
What? The human scrambled backward, hands raised. Whoa, wait. There has to be another way. I didn't know. It's not really a tattoo. It's alien blood. That can't count. Right?
The law is very specific,
She said.
Matching permanent marks means marriage or death. Those are the only two options.
She paused, considering.
I suppose I could kill myself instead, but that seems wasteful.
Whoa, nobody needs to kill anybody! The human's voice had risen to a pitch that probably hurt its throat. Look. I am Kai. What's your name?
Vahatsa, youngest blade master of the treaty.
Okay, Vahatsa. Surely your people have exceptions, special circumstances, right? I am an alien. The guilt that had been gnawing at her inside suddenly bloomed into something decision-shaped. This human, Kai, had saved her life after she tried to kill him. He tended her wounds, apologized for troubles that weren't his fault, and offered to help fix something he saw as damage to her beauty. He was strange and pale and hairy, but he was not evil.
There is one possibility,
She said slowly.
I could take you to the matriarch, explain the exceptional circumstances. The secret ritual might not apply because you are not one of our people. And the marks were made in a battle against a common enemy, not in ceremony.
Kai's face lit up with hope. Yes, let's do that.
She would probably order your execution anyways, though.
Vahatsa added conversationally.
But I'm sure everything will turn out well.
15 years later, Vahatsa sat at their kitchen table with an empty look that she could only produce when that specific story was being told. It was worse than even their adventures in space, with forbidden wine and forbidden tech, which certainly brought them to where they are today.
And so,
Kai said, gesturing dramatically to their 3 children who hung on every word.
covered in permanent alien parasite blood that looked exactly like marriage tattoos, your mother decided the only solution was to march me to the village straight to your grandmother and hope for the best.
Did grandmother try to execute you?
Little Tazi asked, eyes wide. She definitely considered it, Kai said with a grin. But that's a story for another time. The important part is, and this, kids, is how I met your mother. Vahatsa buried her face in her hands and wondered if it was too late to make good on her original threat to kill him.